This is where the fun begins.
Hello, you guys. I don't know what the hell's going on. Um, my internet's back up, but now my browser, everything is not responding like how it should. So, if you heard the intro, good. If you didn't, I don't give a damn at this point. But let's go ahead and play this.
Did you miss me?
Awesome. So, again, internet's back up. Browser is being shit. It keeps disconnecting me from my mic, saying that the browser losing connection with mic, and then it's timing out my StreamYards. But the internet is up. It's secured. It's at its normal capacity. So I don't know what's going on. My computer did update last night, overnight, so I'm guessing there's something internal. I don't know, but we are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to CAF Chat. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I am not going to come on camera. I don't want to risk any more technical difficulties. And I see you guys been waiting for me for about a good 15 minutes. I apologize. I am so sorry. I'm excited to talk about Exar Kun. We'll talk about his time of the Jedi, going into the Sith, a little bit behind the scenes here. And then we'll get into our cringe factor. We'll also talk a little about lightsabers since, Exar Kun is the one that George Lucas was inspired by regarding the double bladed lightsaber. So before we get started, please hit the like button. Please share out that we are live here. I have 7 beautiful souls. Maybe it'll grow. We usually get up between 20 to 30 people here on good days. And I know technical difficulties will, scare people away, and I apologize. On my end, I don't know what the hell's going on. After I'm done here, I'm going to troubleshoot with my computer and see what's going on. However, we are here. Welcome, welcome. So, another important question is, what's in your mug? What are you enjoying beverage wise, maybe even snack wise, as we sit here beginning CAF chat? So let's see what everybody has to say. I did have people, like I said, waiting from the beginning. Tommy Doyle, please. I hopefully you didn't leave. So many shills on Twitter need to make them join the Knights of Melvin. I agree. I agree. I am a Knights of Malcolm. I'm your Lady Sith there. I think I might. I think I might be the one of the very few of the Knights of Malvin that could say she's a Lady Sith here. So, you guys, if you haven't had a chance to check out Malvin's channel, subscribe, become a member, check out his Discord. It's been a very long time since I've been on the Discord. Um, but it is a very interactive place as well. Very big community within that. So, and it's very interesting on topics, conversations, and the whole, I guess you could say, idea of it all is saving Star Wars, but in a general sense of exposing, and then also, coming to terms that, it's dead and it probably needs to rest for 10 years or so for a full, I don't know, reboot or reconnect or whatever. However, go check it out. I highly recommend supporting. We, as always, in communities, we may agree, we may not agree, but the thing is coming together in a common cause. So there you go. And then the fracture filter is here. Good morning, chat, Laura. Can't even talk. Smash that like and share that stream. I need to calm this head down. And I woke up with a slight headache. I've been having some issues with having headaches off and on for the last couple of weeks. I've been going through physicals and stuff like that to see what's going on with me and stuff. But I'm here and I'm happy to be here. But I need to slow this mind down from racing because the internet and everything was just going to shits at one point this morning. We are here. Batsy, how are you doing? Hello to you. Hello. And then Brandon got here just in time with a glass of milk and lots of pent up frustration. Well, you joined me with that pent up frustration with the internet issues from the morning to the browser computer issues leading up to the stream. Man, I think I faced it all today. Hopefully now it's smooth sailings on out. Yeah, so hopefully. And of course, I cannot give enough credit to Mr. Soul Assassin, my Vato here. Hey, everybody, how about that Ahsoka? So my mod here who comes in as much as he can to mod. Thank you so much for your dedication. He is across like the larger like Twitter, YouTube communities, I guess you can say, and even those who are not affiliated through Star Wars or anything. He contributes himself as moderator and even as a channel subscriber to a lot of channels, and thank you so much for coming in and taking on this responsibility. I appreciate you. Let's see here. Lady of Iron. Hey, I'm an iron yogi. I'm a yoga teacher, student, and I also lift weights and stuff, so I can understand that iron part here. Hi, everyone. Nice to finally join CAF chat early. Yes, thank you for joining early, even though I wasn't here. Sorry about that. And of course, laughing like, okay. And this is when I was getting ready to go, and then the browser went to shit. So, yeah. Breathe. And Brandon again, a channel member. Thank you to all the channel members as well. Can't believe they pulled another Reva in the show. Goes to show Disney is proof that humans can function without brains. Well, I don't know. This is weird. This is so weird because if you follow me on Twitter, and we'll discuss this a little bit more here when we get into the lightsaber part. There are instances where, like, even Mara and I think Jason Solo, recovers from an impalement of a lightsaber. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. With our support, you won't need luck, OG. Let's do this. Yes, thank you. And Holocron Library Fox, hello. And good luck. Yes, we needed that luck. I have a bad feeling about this. Yeah. Let's see here. And so lightsabers are basically dual knives now. I don't see how lightsabers can be, well, lightsabers are not sharp. What makes them deadly is their heat. The form and their heat. So when you see in the Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon using his lightsaber to cut open through the door, it is melting and cutting. That heat is that extreme on contact. So imagine that in the soft tissues of a body, even with bones, like how it's just going to burn through the bones and cartilage and all that. So imagine that. So cauterization. Yes, it's gonna, cauterize in a sense, but it's also going to heat and boil and destroy all that it touches and all that surrounds where the saber is touching, meaning that organs that might be in that place, no matter how big or small organs are, vital to the human species and probably human species in Star Wars. We, like every species has a different anatomy. So I can't believe I'm getting into the science of this. Science fiction, right? Star Wars is science fiction too. Um, but when you think about such extreme heat, plasma heat, that does severe damage no matter what. So cauterization doesn't mean that it's going to just seal off the body and the body is going to stop bleeding and the person is fine. If that's the case, then people in the Star Wars universe could be just walking around with holes from lightsabers, like all like Sith or Dark Jedi, or bad guys who decided to chance themselves against a Jedi or a Sith or whatever. So you could be seeing a lot of people walking around with holes in their bodies like that because it's cauterized and they're fine. No, even if it does seal up the surrounding area after, whatever nerves that were running through that area, whatever arteries, whether it's main coronary arteries or what, will stop the blood flow from going to the heart, circulating through the body, causing problems to even stop in the heart. So again, thinking about biology, science, all of that when it comes to that, yeah, oh well, it's not real life, it's just fantasy, it's Star Wars, it's fake. But when you take that simple reality of how heat and body respond together, it's not a good thing. So there we go. There's my little tangent there. And we're not supposed to begin with this. We're supposed to be talking. Okay. Like I said, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's my browser. And I got booted out Ah. So how are you guys doing? I don't know if we should cancel the show today or not, or if we should try to go on further in. Um, I just don't want to keep bouncing out and being inconsistent with this. I really don't. I really, really don't. But thank you guys for having your patience with what's going on today. Like I said, my internet no, not my internet, my computer had an update. Internet was shoddy this morning for whatever reason, and now I'm getting these warning signs from the browser and stuff, getting kicked out. I don't know what's going on. Question: when was the first time y'all heard of Exar Kun? There you go. So when was the first time you heard from him? Or from him? Geez, from him. When did he exactly talk with you? Okay, so when did you first hear about him? So when did you first hear about him, and what did you think about him? So we'll have a short one here. I want to go ahead and I want to have an in-depth talk, and I was thinking Exar Kun is going to have to be in another one that's going to be split up for two parts, I guess you could say, talking about the dynamics of who he is and stuff, and going further into what happened and how he influenced the galaxy as well. So let me know in the chat, especially with what Soul Assassin has said right here. Question was, when was the first time y'all heard of Exar Kun? So let me know in the chat. So, but we do have a cringe factor one that I really wanted to talk about. So what I'm going to do here was we're going to make this a CAF chat briefing. I didn't talk to Exar Kun. We all know what happened to that one student who spoke to Exar Kun, right? Exactly. You know what? So I'm going to just keep this going. If I bounce out one more time, if I get kicked out, then we'll just go ahead and call it an end, and then we'll resume next week. I will do run some diagnostics on my computer to see what's going on. Maybe having to uninstall the latest update. I don't know. But we are here today. We will make this shit happen. We will talk Exar Kun. We will get into Cringe Factor. So that question, when was the first time y'all heard of Exar Kun? So we'll just talk basics. Next week, we'll get into more of him as a Jedi going in as a Sith, because that right there is the beginning of his, I guess you could say, destiny and his influence throughout the galaxy. So with Exar Kun, you know, his birth, when he was born, is unknown, but he died in 3996 BBY on the planet Yavin. And which is very interesting, if you know where he came from, if you were introduced to him through the Jedi Academy trilogy, you've seen him as a spirit. So he was the spirit that was entrapped in the Masasi temple there. Sith spirits are very different. They don't really have immortality as you would think they do as a spirit. We're going to probably have to talk about that too, about Sith spirits versus Force ghosts. But he was a spirit, and he had influence on Luke's academy. But I can't wait to get into those details either, or as well. So as a spirit, he was banished 11 ABY. Talk about having some influence there. So let's see here. And his affiliation, of course, is the Jedi Order. His master was Vodu Sayosk Boss, so Vodu Bosk. Vodu, not Vodu. V's can sound like B's sometimes. And then he also, his affiliation was the Galactic Republic. He did feel like the Jedi Order was being corrupted and stuff. We'll get into more of that, are wrong. We'll get more to detail here pretty soon, our next CAF chat. Sith, his affiliation was the Sith Empire. His master is Freedon Nod, which basically, did you know that Freedon just almost killed him, like collapsing the temple on him? And crazy shit right there. And then also the Brotherhood of the Sith. So you're going to see, like with Revan, when we talked about Revan versus now talking about Exar Kun, you have the Brotherhood of the Sith And then you have Revan realizing that the Sith, the way they're evolving, is not constructive for them, their survival, coming up with what we see as the rule of two, which goes into Bane. So the Brotherhood of the Sith is from then all the way to Bane, where Bane realizes after picking up the holocron of Revan that something needs to change, right? And again, behind the scenes, George is the one that helped created this lore with the Sith. So if you hear people say on Twitter or even social media, like even YouTube here, that George did not have, say, or he did not get involved, or he said that Sith and Jedi did not fight, did not have any war, civil war, that is untrue. And next week I will have more information regarding that. So this information, like actual George's conversation was given to me as well as creating the Sith and saying that the Jedi and the Sith fought each other in the past, civil war, basically. I'm just paraphrasing here. So it's very interesting, this development. Very, very interesting. So let's see here what you guys have to say. And Disney trying to mess with your internet. Oh, gee, I don't know what the hell's going on, but now 15 people are here. Thank you so much. Let's pray that we have smooth sailing here. Smooth sailing. I don't even want to change screens now. I'm scared to, and I don't want to change browser tabs, or anything like that. So let's see. Let's see here. First heard of him when he was referenced in Couture. Awesome. See, there's that. Game-wise, I could see that. But then, novelization-wise, he was first introduced in the Jedi Academy trilogy. And let's see here. I am risking it. Hopefully that you guys are not frozen now that I switched tabs because there's something I wanted to share with you guys here. I'm not going to share it on screen. I just want to pull up my notes. So the character of Exar Kun was created by Kevin J. Anderson. So if you didn't know that, Exar Kun is his baby. And so he was first used as an antagonist in the Jedi Academy trilogy, which came out in 1994. What is so interesting is that, Kun was first set to appear as just a dreamlike dark man in the trilogy. And, basically the Jedi Search is the first novel. And leading into the, Dark Apprentice, what have you. And when he was developing Exar Kun, he was stuck between whether having Exar Kun as Dark Lord of the Sith or the Dark Jedi. When talking with George Lucas about this, yes, he talked to George Lucas about this. The decision of Lucas was to vote him as the former, as Dark Lord of the Sith. So saying George did not have anything to do with the EU or any decisions in the planning and stuff like that is untrue. So, George Lucas gave the blessings on making Exar Kun Dark Lord of the Sith. And then afterwards, Tales of the Jedi comics started coming out, and Tom Veitch is the one who had fronted that, and he suggested that they use Exar Kun's story with that of already established running story of the Tales of the Jedi. And that started giving us a backstory for Exar Kun, where even Kevin J. Anderson said if he could have wrote him for Tales of the Jedi first, he would have been happy because he could have fleshed out more of Exar Kun's background leading and then also expanding his story in the Jedi Academy trilogy. So he had, so he felt kind of like he did everything backwards and he wasn't too satisfied with it, but he was happy. He was happy with that. So let's see what you guys have to say. I can't recall for the life of me, maybe around the time Phantom Menace was around for obvious reasons. I'd say her. And I don't know what that one is about. Sorry, I can't directly make a good statement towards that. Turn to the dark side or die. Essentially, what Freedom said. Correct. He literally like dropped the temple on him, nearly crushing him. And Exar Kun's like, I'm not like how you would say here, Luke Skywalker say, I'm never turning the dark side. Well, that's basically what Exar Kun said until he met the face of death. But another thing that kind of intrigued him into going dark was some holocrons he found. And his master Vodo was basically took them away from him, which made Exar even more diligent on wanting to learn. So sometimes correcting and taking something away that your student's not supposed to have sparks their further interest into something that they cannot look into. So it's like a kid to a parent, you're telling me not to do that, well, I'm gonna do it anyways, kind of deal. So in short, so meeting the death with the temple falling on Exar Kun, he then gave in. And then when he gave in, of course, he was taken out. And then he was basically like healed so quickly that even though it was quick and what have you, you can hear him scream to the Force. And I think that it was heard across for a long time in the Force, and I forgot how far off. We'll have to revisit this next week. But basically, his scream of pain was heard through the Force at a great distance, and he was healed, and which basically further sealed him into the dark side. So that's how Freedom Nos got him. So that was very interesting, and I can't wait to get into more of that. Like I said, we'll just get into the behind the scenes and stuff today with Exar Kun and a little bit of history. We'll get into his affiliations and turning to the dark side next week, and then we'll get into the events that surround him, just like we did with Revan, leading into how he hated the Jedi and how he wanted the Jedi to be destroyed. And when Mon Mothma and Leia approved Luke, creating an academy, and the location is what they gave Luke, and Luke agreed to the location. That was Yavin 4 at the temple where they had their base. Little did they know that he was a Sith spirit in that location. And Exar Kun still wanted the Jedi to be defeated, no longer exist, what have you. And so that's one of the main reasons why he tried to destroy him, in a sense. So I'm not fleshing out too much, because I want that to be a greater conversation. And I did share on Twitter community page a clip of the history of Exar Kun, who he was. And then I also shared it on my basic Twitter page today. So if you follow me if you follow me on Twitter X, feel free to watch that if you still have some gaps of history you need to fill in. Lady Iron says, why do people think George wasn't involved in the expanded universe? It's rather silly. Crazy thing is that poor Raging Rhino, I am so sorry, but I did it anyways. So sorry, not sorry, I don't know. But on his first review of Ahsoka episode 1, there was a person who he said he's subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. However, I don't think my view and his view about the EU is gonna fit together. He may not be a good choice for my channel because he's not gonna like what I have to say, and he's learning that he's learning that in the conversation I had with him last night. But basically, he was complaining about paper existing in Star Wars. It does exist, and it's called flimsy plast, or flimsies. And it's like paper. You can write on it, and it was common to use. No, it doesn't take away from how technically advanced Star Wars is. It's just another means of communication, and all that. So he then goes into told him it exists in the original EU and that's where they're getting it from. He goes in to say, "Oh, the EU's not canon," da, da, da. And then we have this whole bit of conversation where he tries to say the EU continuity is a mess, that it contradicted, blah blah blah. He shared this big, huge, long essay to me, and I debunked that, and the conversation went from there. So if you know me, you know the conversation. In short. So he was like, "Oh yeah, I subscribed to your channel. You know, I got information from you through Raging Rhino," and I'm like, "Cool, but I don't think we're gonna click on what my channel platform is about and what you think about the EU. But thank you for your support, anyways." So I'm still gracious that he subscribed here, but we do have different viewpoints. He really thinks that the EU was never canon and that George didn't even pay attention to it. I shared that here that he does. And we've shared that many, many times before. Batsy says, "How would you guys feel about George having a Twitter account to drop random bits of real lore, a la J.K. Rowling?" I don't know. I think that he is better off not on Twitter. So, revisionist history. And of course, he cared. Star Wars is his baby, and he wanted to ensure everything went the way he wanted. Correct. And George, and I even pointed out that George Lucas, the franchise is not just the films; it's a multimedia franchise. And the guy's like, "No, it's only the 6 films." George, blah 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 blah. Kind of, he went off and tried to write me another essay on that. And in fact, just like last Friday, we talked about George wanting the franchise to be more than just the movies. And we shared that proof on the Spacing last week. So if you guys haven't had a chance to catch the Spacing, the latest live of the Spacing, go check it out. There are some important bits in there talking about continuity and stuff, talking about canon. 190s. Okay. Hey, Melissa Lord, another channel member. Thank you for coming in. You missed all the internet and browser mishaps, making me start late and then also getting me booted off my own stream. Very interesting morning, the least I could say. Thank you for sharing that. And I do have new merch, and I meant to put this up on I meant to pull it up and share with you guys, but I do have new merch on my Redbubble. In fact, I will pull that up here pretty soon. I just want to do one thing at a time. Seems like, cross your fingers, seems like we're going perfectly fine now. And here's the link to the merch there. So it is, the merch is called Man to Machine, and it's a retro image of Vader and Anakin. And very, 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 I really like that one. I really do. So it makes a great poster for the wall. So if you like to, if you have your nerd space, yes, I'm going to use the word nerd. If you have your nerd space and you collect things, but you don't want to buy from Disney, Lucasfilm, go get that. Go get that latest piece. In fact, let me go ahead and remove this. And I am going to try. So cross your fingers that this will work and that we could share the image without my browser just kicking fun with this piece. I'm finishing up some dance attire regalia stuff, and I took a break because I had this envision in my head for a while, and I sat down and did it digitally. So it's my digital art. Yeah, computer. It's my computer. So I didn't go through this before as well. So let's hope it all works. There we go. Now let me share. Wish me luck, you guys. We're going in. We're going in. Window. There we go. All right. It is spinning. There it is. So let me just go ahead and put myself on the side of the screen for this so you could see it in its entirety. Let me take this out. So here it is. It's almost like a retro kind of like 3 colors. And the reason why I put blue on Vader and red on Anakin is because Anakin fell to the dark side, leading to Vader. And then Vader was redeemed, going back to the light. So red and blue. And I have the names there just like kind of highlighted, kind of, where you could see it, but you can't. So that's just what I wanted to do with it. So this makes a great poster. It's also a great image on a t-shirt. The mug I like, but I can't have it multiple. So I'm trying to figure out if I should have it center or on the left or right side of the mug. So, but as right now, I think it's center. So I might go ahead and re-center that on in a different direction there. So I'm really happy about this. I want to do a painting piece on this, but I want to do the color. I don't want to do this retrospect image. I want to do the color. And then maybe the background will be of red and blue. I don't know. So I want to do full color on this. I haven't had a chance to draw it out on my canvas board for oil. And it's called a treacle board, and it's primed for oil. And that's what I do a lot of my paintings on, is more or less than a regular traditional canvas, because I love Treacle's board and it being primed for oil and how it holds the paint and all that. So if you guys get your merch, you can get it on a mug, you can get a poster, you can get it in on a metallic type canvas board. Very, like I said, I really love this. I was just thinking about how I've been just thinking about doing something with Anakin and Vader, and this image of him in Return of the Jedi, where he's getting mad at the council when he's up in front of the council. I liked how that image looked with the image of Vader here. So check it out. Check it out. Let me see what you guys have to say. Jolie mentioned him in a conversation with Karth about what led to the Mandalorian Wars. Yes, that goes into the Mandalorian Wars as well. So the Sith was influenced, or the Mandalorians were influenced by the Sith. And this goes further into that. So that's one of the events I want to talk about. Not this coming week, but the week after, part 2. Or part 3, I guess you can say, since this is probably part 1. Part 2 will go more into his ascendance as a Sith, and then we'll get into the events leading up to the events of the Jedi Academy trilogy. So it's very interesting. I would say, like, this old Republic lore. I love my post Return of the Jedi lore, no doubt. But this old Republic lore gives us more depth on what shaped and what led up to what we see once we get into the prequels, I guess you can say. The Dark Times, the classical times, are the ending of the Empire and the Imperial times, and leading into post Return of the Jedi. So very, very interesting stuff there. Oh yeah. Can Siths become ghosts in old lore? They become spirits, which is different, and we need to go ahead and cover that, because this is a prime example of what happens. So when we discuss Exar Kun becoming a spirit, we'll get in between what that means as a Force ghost and Sith spirit and blah 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 blah. So XOG, not Twitter. I'm going to still call it Twitter. The Twitter X owned by Musk Man. The Musk Man, yep. Twitter X, yeah. So Twitter, Tweeter X, and all of that. Oh my gosh, I'm a nerd. Yep, we all are nerds here. We were nerds before people thought being a nerd was cool, right? And I don't know who you mean by who was this. that could be lead into anything. Lucas would get attacked. Oh, you're talking about who I was talking to? I am not going to reveal that. Lucas would get attacked or bothered constantly by shills and fans. He's better off not being on Twitter. I agree. I agree with that. And I'm kind of behind on comments here and what have you, but that's okay. We're behind on stream anyways. Today's just that theme. But thank you guys for tuning in. I have 17 beautiful souls. Like, share, subscribe, or become a member, or all of the above. And let people know we're live here to come in and join the conversation. It's not all about just Cringe Factor, Disney, Star Wars news kind of deal. We also talk lore as we are now. So the Sith, we've been talking about the Sith for a while now, which is very interesting. I think that at times Sith don't get as much attention as Jedi because they're the bad guys. They're the villains, but people hardly talk about them. Sorry, I just popped out, saw a couple of OG shorts. Let's see here. And yes, here's the link for the spacing. You guys go ahead and check it out when you have a chance. Great topic conversations in there all the time. We are going to have another one about this culture war that's going on. That is it won? Has it lost? Are we in a lost cause? We'll discuss all of that pertaining to the culture war tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. During the prequels, Lucas was more involved, obviously, but even once he stepped down in 2004, he didn't step down in 2004 to raise kids. His baby was born later than that. He still could come check the company weekly. He was writing all his, So he did step away at one point, and he even stated that in 2008, that because he was working on Red Tails and all that stuff, and his attention was not fully there. Well, look at that. I'm going to get it on a t-shirt. I love Anakin Skywalker, so this is right up my alley. Well, thank you so much. And when you do, I would love to see it somehow, some way, shape, or form. My email is ogstarwar77@yahoo.com. So you can even send them an email, appropriate email, if you don't have Twitter or any social media that I'm on, and this is the only thing you do, I would love to see. And if it wasn't on a roundtable, they would still contact him via fax. Correct. And then if he wasn't available, he did have like Howard, he did have Leland and a few people in place to take care of that continuity questions. They all knew exactly what to expect and what George wanted. So, George trusted in faith these people to to help them write within his vision. Adega Outlaw, how are you? Deuces to you. I'm not coming on camera because I've had issues with even internet and my browser. So we're going to stay just with my lovely avatar image here in my beaded hat. But I am throwing some deuces out to you. Deuces to you. Darth Anakin and Vader Skywalker. That's amazing. Amazing how Exar Kun actions may many events follow his war with the Republic. Yes, exactly. Let me go ahead and put that image back up there. Thank God it didn't crash or anything like that. Let's see here. And what are you guys saying? Fighting for what is right is never a lost cause. We'll discuss that in the spacing tomorrow night. It begins 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, my time. So I am on the West Coast, so you can just gauge time frame and time zones on when it starts on yours. Twixer, we're on Twixer. Of course, I'd send an appropriate email. Last thing I need is internet drama. Correct. I was just joking about that, but some people, kind of are crazy. I don't put it past them. So with this being said, we're coming up on the hour. Let's go ahead and get into our cringe factor here. So next week, so I shared those videos on my Twitter, the community Twitter, and my regular Twitter X page, whatever you want to call it, X, whatever it's called, X Twitter. Who knows? Um, if you're not too privy with the lore, Mandalore is the one who did the video, and I did a talking EU interview with him here on the channel. Amazing memory, amazing love for pre Disney Star Wars. So check that out. Go subscribe to his channel. But I did share his Who is Exar Kun video. So his 15-minute, history of him, and he reports it as if it's a reporting kind of holocron report. So check that out so you can bridge any gaps if you are still not fully aware of who Exar Kun is. So a little homework there for you guys. You know me. I love doing the homework with you guys, saying, go ahead and check this out, report back to me. But before we segue into our cringe factor, which is going to be very interesting in itself. So I don't know if you guys are going to be like, how you guys are going to respond to it, but it's cringe factor for a reason. Let's talk about lightsabers. So I did share some behind the history with Exar Kun's creation, with George's involvement. And of course, when you get into the Sith lore and Tales of the Jedi with Tom and stuff, there is more history behind that and George's involvement and how it leads up, and how George did create Darth Bane, and then with Tom and a few other authors, I believe it was Tom. But anyways, he also, through the EU first, created the Rule of Two. So if George did not think the EU was canon or did not care about it, he would not have made these story plots later used for the movies in the EU. He would have just saved it and not let them use it in EU because it wouldn't be canon to the movies. But it is. It's part of the saga. EU is part of the saga. So with that being said, Exar Kun, in the beginning, he had a single-bladed lightsaber. But Kevin J. Anderson had it in the idea to do something different, wanting to present something different. And guess what? George approved of it. So he later revealed Exar Kun, and we'll get into this next week some more because it's a part of his journey. But he later, and there's important events where he shares he has a double-bladed lightsaber. And I'm not going to spoil it if you don't know. But he reveals has his double-bladed lightsaber. So George loved the idea and concept of the double-bladed lightsaber. So he used it for Maul in The Phantom Menace. Because he was privy and knew what was going on with the lore during that time frame, had say in what was going on, communicated with the authors, kept an eye on that, he liked that idea for the double-bladed lightsaber. And he brought it in from Maul. And is it a Sith type thing? No, it's not, because we already know there's another account of a double-bladed lightsaber. So there's that history there. That history links George with the EU, approving, liking, being involved with, whatever you want to call it, to where it influences the movie, Episode 1. So when you guys, knowing Exar Kun's history, knowing who he is, what he's known for, and then watching The Phantom Menace, correct? You are correct. Watching Phantom Menace and seeing Maul in the hangar facing Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and he lights one side of the saber and then the other. Did you immediately get the correlation? Were you excited to see that double-bladed lightsaber again? Let me know. Let me know, because those who knew the story for Exar Kun may have noticed the correlation already, just seeing that for the first time. I bet that was excitement. Other than, being excited leading up to this Duel of Fates that, basically throws Obi-Wan into his destiny with Anakin and later with Luke. Just seeing that double-bladed lightsaber and saying, oh shit, I've seen that before in the EU. Holy cow. I bet you that was an amazing feeling. Your art is beautiful, Laura. I saw, but was fixing IT stuff for this guy. I need some IT stuff going on for my stuff too. But thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, it you can get it on Redbubble. So if you want some merch to support the channel, feel free to. All right. George liked the double-bladed lightsaber just as much as Nick Gillard hated it, which is why he had Obi-Wan cutting it in. Interesting stuff. I will look more into that with Nick, because he is the mastermind behind the duels in the prequel trilogy. Awesome stuff. So if I can pull that up, we could share that next week. Like I said, I had technical difficulties. There's so much I wanted to present today in, having the dice roll as they were for me beginning the show today. we will continue next week with some more detailed stuff, and I look forward to that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and remove these stuff from the screen. Remove. There we go. And no, I don't want you there. Let's go ahead and just remove you altogether. There we go. All right. So there goes my commentary on removing stuff from the screen. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Soul Assassin says Exar Kun's lightsaber was a single hilt design that had the ability to activate the blades separately. Correct. The Jedi's design was less creative and had a longer hilt. Yes. And I would love to go into details about that because it's a very interesting on how Sith and even Jedi created these different types of hilts, length in the blades, all of that. So, and another unique lightsaber was what was her name? Tenny will call hers because it was a Rancor tooth, not Rancor tooth. And so that was an interesting one too. But I mean, that's a single blade, but yes. So there's a difference between, Exar's and then, like a Jedi's design. Very, very interesting in itself. So with that being said, we are going to get into Cringe Factor. And I would like to know what you guys know about the Vong. What you guys felt about that dark story, that dark history post Return of the Jedi. Because we are going to lead into that kind of talk today for Cringe Factor. But this is not Cringe Factor towards the New Jedi Order. No way. That's one of my favorite series. It's a 19-book series. Yes, it's a bit long. There's some books that are more better than the others. Of course, you're always going to have authors are in a book series, one book being, the least favorite, but it still has a purpose in it. Yeah. So what do you guys know about the Yuuzhan Vong, the Yuuzhan Vong War, or no, not the war, but just the Yuuzhan Vong in general? And what do you think about them? Hey, Keely Chow, how are you doing? And what do you think about them? And Zagrat315, thank you for joining in. So, Keely, we're getting into Cringe Factor now. And so the question is what are your thoughts about the Yuuzhan Vong? Let's see here. So Brandon says, I have yet to read the Vong, but my dad owned all the books, so I can check it out once we can dig them out. Cool. Dig them out. Put them on your bookshelf. What is my favorite hilt? Oh, that's a hard one. Yeah, we're not going to get into TCW stuff. The EU pike. I will get back on that. You know what? I'll answer that next week when we get further into the saber. When we bring up the difference and stuff. I like the Vong, cool villains. They are unique and terrifying. And Melissa says, I have read them. So no, that's all you're gonna reveal. Your favorite is Anakin's saber. Let's see here. Now I have a favorite blade colors. I have two, but hilt, that is a good one. Let's see here. So let's get into Cringe Factor here, you guys. Let's check this out.
So uncivilized.
So with this cringe factor, and I didn't get to pull it up as quickly as I wanted to, but we are getting into cringe factor, and this goes into the Ahsoka show. Oh my god, who would have thunk? Who would have thunk that cringe factor would have to do with the Ahsoka show? Well, it does. And here we are. Here we are, ladies and gents. I know that you guys were talking about sabers pertaining to the Ahsoka show. We got into it a little bit. We will discuss more about impalements next week as well. I have a full agenda next week. I need to slow my roll on what we're going to talk about next week. But I did ask a question on my Twitter community page about, in the EU, share with me who, as in character-wise, was impaled with a saber, who survived and who did not, or who had both happen to them. Jason Solo is a great example of surviving and dying from an impalement. Yeah. So I wanted to ask that question because everybody is so upset. And yes, it's ridiculous. I understand. I am kind of like, Disney is making sabers less deadly every single show. Unless they absolutely need someone to be killed by a saber, it has no effect. And then people explain away with cauterization that, oh, it's cauterized, so they're safe. They didn't bleed out. No, there's also damage from the heat. The heat. If you could see Qui-Gon melt metal and cut metal with the saber, imagine the body. So that's the talking point there. So we'll get more into it next week. But if you join me on Twitter and you're part of the community page, go ahead and answer that. I want, like, if you know a lot of them, list them. I know Soul Assassin's like, where can I start? List them, because I would love to share and talk about that in depth about maybe why they survived. But the whole point of the recovery of their survivors is that it took them weeks to months to heal, or even to get transplants of their own cloned organs so that they can live. So that's the point of there, where we see it's not so apparent here in Disney Star Wars. And then those who are dead, those who died from it and stuff like that, and what was available at the time to why maybe they died and all that. Like the face, or you're not going to just rush them off to medic, so on and so forth. So getting into that, because yes, I am disgusted just like everybody else with lightsabers, but this is Disney Star Wars. So we can talk about how effective they are in the original lore versus how ineffective they are in Star Wars. So that's a whole different rant, a whole different topic than what we're talking about here. So Ahsoka just rewrote Star Wars' entire history in a single line. So Ahsoka meaning the show, not her as a character. So here you have it. Ahsoka just rewrote Star Wars' entire history in a single line. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think is? What do you think that really is? And I did ask about the Vong. So you kind of have a little hint there. And no, you don't need to watch it. You can just look up things and not even waste your time watching it if you want to compare and contrast. That show was so boring. I seen your tweet on that. Let's see here. Lafayette, yes, so his retcons are always priceless. Yes, it is. Priceless. Just looking at the screenshot, it looks so soulless. And they're getting into this like weird magic. They brought back the Night Sisters. So my impression, and Soul Assassin brought this to my attention, and because at the time I wasn't really thinking about these Night Sisters and then thinking about TCW, but in TCW in 20 BBY, and I don't know what episode that is for TCW, they were basically became extinct. They were wiped out. I'm being told now on Twitter that there were survivors, but from what I remember, they were wiped out. So retconning the Night Sisters. So here you go. Let's see here. So this goes into part of retconning the Night Sisters, the story here, kind of, in a sense. Dirge and Galen, one because his incredible regenerative abilities, Galen had, and then Galen had surgery and cybernetics. Yes, surgery, cybernetics, which took months for him to heal and all that. Sounds like something Dave Jabroni would do. Let's see here. My only exposure to the show is watching Malvin's rip into it, which is way more fun. Yeah, the people who rip into it, that's way more fun. People like Malvin's anti-watch party, people who are watching Ahsoka, man, they look so bored. It was like just insane. Sounds like something. Oh, I already clicked that. Star Wars is saved. Dun dun dun. It's saved. It's saved. Come on, hallelujah. It's saved. Now am I not a black pill? Okay, Ahsoka is the shits. Rosaria was actually good with her fighting, but that Sabine versus Sith apprentice girl fight was god awful. So bad. So bad. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing with Sabine. I've been hearing mixed reviews with Ahsoka. Just watch over people's reviews. Yep. She didn't look like a Night Sister. No, she doesn't fit that whatsoever. Yeah, of course they're survivors. No one ever dies. Correct. All right, so I'm having enjoyment reading through your comments, but let's get into this article because, like I said, we started late, technical difficulties, but we are here. So let's check this out. So this is by Nathaniel Rourke. Sounds kind of like a Norgri, right? Rourke. Ahsoka has only dropped 2 episodes on Disney Plus, but a single line of dialogue has already rewritten the history of Star Wars Galaxy. Okay, so what is that? We already know that they are rewriting history, in Star Wars as it is. And I don't want to watch that video. I don't like this little bullet point thing here, but you know what? It's screen rant, whatever. Star Wars history has been drastically rewritten after a single line of dialogue in Ahsoka. Whoa, really? So are they rewriting their own history, their own, I guess you can say, quote unquote, canon or lore, Disney lore? So what's going on here? Because they already have been rewriting Star Wars history since the inception, since they had purchased Star Wars. As the long-anticipated follow-up to Star Wars Rebels, The Mandalorian Season 2 Ahsoka was bound to have plenty of exciting reveals for fans after years of waiting. Oh, years, huh? That's a bit exaggerated there, but whatever. But we already know that, like, even Ahsoka in Mandalorian went against the novel of Ahsoka. Oh, how much Filoni, quote unquote, rewrites history in Star Wars. He changes it for whatever he feels needs to happen in the moment, which is not good storytelling because the suspension of disbelief in the past now are like, what the hell? It no longer exists. Well, then why am I investing my time into this? However, Ahsoka has exceeded what most viewers expected, disclosing new information that changes the Star Wars timeline forever. Whoa, wait, is this? Get to the point. Get to the point. Okay, so what the debut episode revealed has big implications for the rest of the Ahsoka and entire Star Wars franchise. Blah, 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 blah. So, the new information about the galaxy's history will undoubtedly factor into Dave Filoni. The Mandalorian film could play a role in James Mangold's Dawn of the all these what ifs. What could be going on here? So here we go. Here's this right here. This is like that Stargate kind of star map kind of. Ahsoka Episode 2, Toil and Trouble, reveals that an ancient alien race came to the Star Wars galaxy thousands of years in the past. So this is why I'm asking you guys if what you know about the Vong, what you think about them in the story, not just the war, but the Vong in general. because apparently them revealing that an ancient alien race is changing the Star Wars history. So are they just discussing their history, the Disney lore? Because we already seen this happen. We already knew. Even Waru is from out of the galaxy, not just the Vong. So there are instances other than the Vong of having other species in contact with the galaxy. According to Morgan Elsbeth, the structure on Cetos was built by an ancient people from a distant galaxy. Confirmed life exists outside the known Star Wars galaxy. We already knew that. They're acting like this is a groundbreaking thing. It's not a groundbreaking thing. You know, the thing that they called the stuff that they say they had, you know, the no source material that had came before. This is where I wish I had a clip of Kathleen Kennedy saying we have no source material, because that source material, all the history that came before that they tossed aside because they wanted creative freedom, they wanted a clean slate, however they worded that. We already knew, like longtime fans already knew that there was, you know, species, there was other galaxies with other species outside of the Star Wars galaxy. Also, it also shows that travel outside the galaxy is possible, as Morgan and her cohorts are seeking the pathway to Peridia. So that is another thing in question, because we know, and Soul Assassin or anybody can correct or give me the proper name, but there is like an astral field around going into or past the unknown regions that makes it next to impossible to leave the galaxy. That was already fleshed out in the Star Wars lore. Now, I haven't read back into that time frame or about that bit in a while, so I can't really give you the name of what it's called. But that asteroid field, that one galactic or that one space anomaly area, I guess you can say, makes it impossible for people to come and go out of the galaxy. And so yes, it could be life threatening, I guess you could say. So basically, seeking the pathway to Peridia to recover Grand Admiral Thrawn from his exile. And that's the thing. Thrawn was never in exile. He was like being abducted by space squids is not the same as going into exile or being exiled. And so I don't know why they're calling it exile now when he's not in exile. He basically was abducted, never seen. Could he have freed himself? Yes. Could he be staying in unknown regions where he is, wherever he is, as a secret base? Yes, but that doesn't mean it's friggin' exile. And where did he find the time to have this map made to find him? This is like Luke Skywalker, Jake Skywalker map game theme all over again. You must find this trinket, solve the puzzle, plain kind of analogy here, which is a very, very poor writing. And Thrawn is a straightforward guy. He didn't have to hide himself because he's very tactical. He's very intelligent. He didn't have to hide himself. He didn't have to play these games. He never played fucking games. This is where Filoni's getting Thrawn wrong again. Thrawn was straightforward. He didn't play games. He didn't play like, oh, here's a map. Find me. Let's play hide and seek. Fuck this shit. People are saying that Thrawn is going to be respected, and Zahn thinking that, they're full of shit, because again, Thrawn was never, so Zahn and Thrawn, they kind of sound the same. Zahn is Timothy Zahn, so if I said Thrawn by accident, I'm sorry. But Thrawn is a very intelligent guy, very tactical, very artful, intelligently artful, to where he can read someone's art, a species art, and get to know the individual or the species and stuff like that. That was something that was kind of kept into the Disney lore, but still didn't really connect like it originally did. Like you can't strike, you can't, hit lightning cannot strike in the same place twice, so you have that. It's rare. You can't, whatever that analogy is. I'm sorry, I just butchered the hell out of it. My mind, like I said, is racing. It's like, ugh, breathe, Laura. But anyways, Thrawn is a no-nonsense guy. So now we're led to believe he's playing this find me if you can game. Why? What is he hiding for? What does he have to hide for? Like even in the Hand of Thrawn. Yeah, he's dead, but he had this other second thing, and I kind of like thought, well, maybe Thrawn wouldn't clone himself, but he did. So that was kind of something that I'm like, okay, well, I guess I could see that. But this, no, I can't see him. Find the map, catch me if you can kind of analogy. No, that's bullshit. And even find Neurowan, the Hand of Thrawn, they didn't have to use a map. Very odd, very odd. So that's my Thrawn take, I guess you could say. I'll see what you guys got to say, and we'll get into more of the story. Let's see here. Oh, my internet decided to mess up. Hopefully, I didn't lose you guys. Hopefully. The intergalactic void. Thank you so much. One line got a laugh out loud for me when the droid said, "You want to do it because you're a hologram," referring to the possibility of the droid head exploding while Sabine was working with it. Oh my God. What the hell? Let's see here. And how do you make a map and deliver it and not just come back yourself? It's so fucking stupid. And yes, the intergalactic void, I knew that you would come up with it faster than because it's been a while since I read that. It's been a while. Come on, internet, don't kick me out or my browser. Let's see here. They haven't shown Grand Admiral Elon Thrawn on the show yet. When they do, Thrawn dies. He will die. He will die. He will be one of those people that are cucked out. There are no hyperspace routes to the unknown region. It's impossible to explore there. That's where Thrawn, like if you get into the original lore, that's where Thrawn came in handy for the Empire. But yes, it's not that known, but the Sith did do it. But it wasn't as mapped out as the galaxy as a whole was. So let's see here. And that's another interesting conversation. The mapping out of the galaxy and the unknown regions and who was responsible for that. Let's see here. I know there is a navigation anomaly in the unknown region. To navigate that area was put there by the Celestials to keep species from the rest of the galaxy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had this conversation like 2 years ago with someone. I forgot who I was talking with. It's been a while since I talked about that. So it's good to refresh my mind on that. Let's see here. Wasn't Camino an extragalactic system located in 12 parsecs from the Rishi Maze galaxy? Shouldn't it count as life existing outside the Star Wars galaxy? Very, very interesting. It's a system, its own system. So, and it's a system on the outs. Just like the Chiss system is in the unknown regions, it's not outside the galaxy. So I think that's where you're getting maybe it confused. Let's see here. All right, StreamYard is going slow with me clicking on this. So thank you so much. All right. I thought Thrawn was kidnapped by space whales. How did he leave a map? That's the thing. So I am not going to get into the Jedi apprentice thing between Ahsoka and Sabine. But if she actually trained, and this is just food for thought, and this is where I'm going to leave it at, and I did it on Twitter. If she trained Sabine at one point. It was during the time that Luke was becoming a Jedi, where they were ending the reign of the Empire, where he needed people the most. So where the fuck were they? So I'll leave that out there right now. You could think about that. Okay. Ahsoka will outsmart Thrawn, of course. Of course. Even though like Luke, Han, and Leia could not, he always stayed one step ahead, and they also reiterated that so many times. In fact, I'm revisiting Heir to the Empire right now since Ahsoka started, and no way is it a remake or whatever of Heir to the Empire. It is totally a Rebels continuation with Thrawn, but I am revisiting that story. So let's move on. Let's push on. Legends book series Star Wars, the new, so not really Legends, the original lore, our EU bookstore series, New Jedi Order featured a warrior race called the Yuuzhan Vong, who came from beyond the known galaxy to so the unknown region before outside the galaxy to conquer the Star Wars universe. Thrawn himself had ties to extragalactic travel in original lore. So it's been a while since I read Outbound. I really need to revisit it. Did Thrawn himself travel outside the galaxy, unknown regions? Because from what I got from it, the contact with the Vong is from the unknown regions when they came into that area. And I remember them saying, like, the unknown regions, because of interaction with people from outside of the galaxy through the unknown regions, and even those that exist in the unknown regions, they can scare the crap out of you. They can take the lives of the galaxy, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it was set up to be something that was terrifying. A while since I revisited Outbound Flight. Intercepting and destroying the Republic's Outbound Flight project that sought to leave the galaxy. So yeah, so we're going from the New Jedi Order to the Outbound Flight novel, which is linked to that. Emperor Palpatine was also interested in the probing of the far reaches of the space, speculating whether the dark side of the Force could have originated outside the galaxy. The original stories open more possibilities for Ahsoka, harken back to Thrawn's original timeline. So this is where the cringe comes in right here. It was already fucking opened. You guys fucking tossed the shit out. Trying to say it's not canon anymore. It's still canon. It's still part of the overall George Lucas idea of Star Wars. He approved of it. He helped work on it, and stuff like that. It exists because he wants it to exist. Yeah, was it something that maybe he would have written? Maybe not, because everybody's creative ideas that they bounced off each other. There's slight variants of how the stories went and how they explained them and shared them and stuff like that. Because Kevin J. Anderson's storytelling is going to be different than, and ideas is going to be different than George. So they're coming together, sharing the ideas, and coming to a conclusion based upon what George wanted, right? That's how it went. So these possibilities have already been established. And then the company says there's no source materials, but then they're like, oh, well, we'll honor you guys, the EU, you hardcore fans, and honor the EU by bringing bits and pieces into it. So they're making it sound like it never happened, but then they're like, oh, but it did happen, and we're going to use it. So what is it? Getting people excited because it never happened, but then saying, oh, we're honoring the EU. Then this, like, the continued story, the continued history of them bringing in original story, original characters, whether movie or EU, they hurt the story more than they help, more than they expand, more than they honor. They bastardize characters. It's not honoring, it's bastardization, because these characters should not exist how they developed in the original lore versus how you're going to have them develop in a place that they don't belong is makes them very different characters. They're in name only. They're only shells. Like Thrawn here is only a shell of who he originally was. When you get into the story of Thrawn, even his origin, the planet that he was born on, is different. How he comes in contact with the Empire is very different. He is never put into exile like he is in the original lore. So when it comes to the Vong, and they already tried to make another Vong with the what's that species name that's in Disney Star Wars, and I think it's in the High Republic, and they're said to be outside from out of the galaxy, I believe. We'll have to look into that, and I'll follow up with you guys next week on that, unless maybe someone knows. If you knows, kudos to you, because I did not get far into my research if they actually are, but they are saying that species that is shared in the High Republic is the new Vong for Disney Star Wars. So if they are coined the new Vong, that means they're already out. They are already from a different species. So are they linking this story up to the High Republic? That's the question now. Because if it shares that in this that there is civilization or alien race that created a civilization or imprint in the galaxy years in the past, could this mean that this is that species that is said to be the Vong for the Disney Star Wars that is revealed in the High Republic? I wonder. What do you guys think? How did these ancient aliens change the galaxy? So let's go ahead and see how this goes. And here is that little cube, that little ball thingy that only Sabine, from what I heard, only Sabine could basically solve. So again, another game mechanics, very similar to The Force Awakens. So why are people thinking this is the greatest thing ever? Why is Disney Star Wars continuing with this theme of game mechanics for their story? This again is poor writing, but we're not here to talk about that, but I just brought that up because I seen that. So, or maybe this is that key to show that map or open the gate to the space map. I don't know. But again, there's a ball cylinder thing that Sabine had to solve to get them out. So maybe that's it. I don't know. How much these ancient aliens influence the Star Wars galaxy is currently unknown, but there are several possibilities. The Star Wars expanding universe is riddled with powerful civilization that shaped galactic history, from the force-wielding Celestials to the Rakatan Infinite Empire. The ancient aliens described in Ahsoka could be revealed as an existing species from the original lore, or they could be a new race created for the show. Ahsoka has rewritten the Star Wars timeline, and the next few episodes would shed light to the galaxy's past in order to explore the future. So what do you think? Is Ahsoka, did it, like, with this introduction of a outer galactic species, rewriting the Star Wars timeline? Not really, because we already seen the Vong. That doesn't really rewrite the timeline. It adds to it. It shares that there are species that exist outside of their galaxy. That doesn't mean the timeline is rewritten. It's just attitude, not attitude. If that sounded like that. So there you have it. So, do you think that they're going to bring in the Vong? Do you think it's a possibility it could be that species that was introduced in the High Republic, linking their own lore? But with what Filoni is known for, what do you think? Looking back at TCW and how he tried to introduce EU characters and points or story, how did he fare with that? And that answer should be known already. He didn't fare too well, to where a fan called him out on misinformation. I think it was against Valorum, I believe. Maybe not. I could have gotten that wrong. But so we know that he just picks and chooses the character or the story and totally disregards what came before. So think about that. So, and then he says, "Oh, I like to honor the EU." So, do you really think he's going to honor the own timeline he's in the High Republic? Or do you think he's just going to half-assedly, a new word, just pick and choose from the EU and bastardize that? What do you think? Stream just buffered on my end. Yeah, it's I don't know what's going on. But my McMuffin, MacGuffin. Oh, I know. That's crazy. Zach's calling the Vong Grisks now. Oh, okay. So that's probably at the Grisks or whatever. Okay. That's probably their name. You might be on. So that we'll talk more about that later too. But they are known to be the Vong of Disney Star Wars. So if they are the Vong of Disney Star Wars, that means they are not of the galaxy. They'll bring the Vong in and make them all allegory to immigration, I bet. Oh boy, here we go. How do you feel about that, Soul Assassin, my Vato friends? Soul, she should shove it. It started glowing like an apple of Eden, and it had symbols on it like the apple, the origin wolf boy. Whoa. Let's see. OG Star Wars, there are rumor going around saying that 2 Jedi from Ahsoka are part of the outbound flight mission. Oh boy, I did not see that. Jeez. So they're trying to say maybe that guy is Jor Sabayoth? McMuffin where? That's how I read it. Let's see here. And the Disney version of the Vong are plant people. Yeah. Okay, so that's the Gursk people, huh? So we got to see. I got to see, look into that more. But if that's their version, that means that if they are copying or they got the ideas, then maybe they are from outside the galaxy. Now, will Filoni honor that? Well, he really didn't honor the Ahsoka novel. You would think that he would honor the Ahsoka novel since it's written about Ahsoka. But no, it's all what he wants. And that's the thing. It's all that he wants. All that he wants, you know. So, with that being said, do you guys favor this? Like, I know like the Vong is something that has been a mixed bag for like a lot of EU fans. Like, I wouldn't say it's 50-50. I think there's more fans that like the dark times of that the New Jedi Order brought than there are that people that didn't like it. So what are your thoughts about the Vong and the Yuuzhan Vong War? And if, you know, before I go on to the next point, you know, because no one was safe from death. We lost major characters, even some that are not that prevalent in the story. Like, we lost Skywalkers. We lost people that were important to the Skywalkers. The Jedi lost, like, by the time they got to, let's see, the Darkness trilogy, the count of Jedi was 2,000. So imagine losing over half of your Jedi. And being a new order, you know, I'm barely building it because, mind you, the PT, there's tens and thousands of Jedi, thousands of years plus to grow the order. You know, there have been other purges since then, but just imagine being Luke Skywalker, barely getting the Jedi up into the thousands, and then losing half of them to the Vong, or maybe a little over half. You know, just, and then him coming to terms on how they should handle the Vong, like, you know, thinking like if they pursue the Vong in a certain way that, you know, he's going to see his Jedi go dark, you know, coming to terms with that, coming into this passive way, then moving into action. Luke was not this like over powerful person, that everything came easy to him. He doubted. He did stuff that was passive. He questioned himself. People in his order questioned his ways to a sense. And then finally, come into reality, like, we can't stay in the state we are in. We need to take action. And so taking that action. So he was not perfect whatsoever. And the Vong Wars, the New Jedi Order series shares that to where he starts coming into his own and finally becoming a grandmaster once the war is over. But we're talking about Luke here. Let's talk about more about the Vong. The Vong, basically, some things that turned people off to the Vong was that they were a species that used biological means to survive. So like their ships, and their weapons and all of that were were basically plants and other things. So their chemistry was biological, not metal. They metal was a blasphemy. It was against their faith, against their beliefs to use metal. Everything had to coexist. They had to bond with what they were using. Like even their armor was living. Vong are not bad. Add more to the lore. Disney version is from a. Oh, okay. Thanks for looking that up, Melissa. I didn't bring it up on screen here. Wow. Okay. So this writer here probably didn't even do the research, which is common. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah. So I thought I'd bring this up because it feels like to me, and thank you, Soul Assassin, for sharing this, because at the time I wasn't even paying attention to Screen Mat or what was going on. I was talking more or less lightsabers. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, you probably don't know that lightsabers has been basically a topic for me lately. And when he shared this, I'm like, okay, Cringe Factor, we're going to talk about this. We're going to get into the Vong a little bit and go from there. And I find it interesting that Filoni, and this is the other point now, I find it interesting that Filoni is just feels like he's grabbing different areas from the original lore to try to write these stories in what he thinks would be a fascinating for the fans. And a lot of fans like you and I, like hardcore fans, and or as other channels call us, black pills or whatever, are seen through this because this is his normal tactic. This is what he does. He does not care about continuity. He just feels like, oh, this is interesting. How can I use this in my world, basically in my head, to write a story, not considering what came from the past, the history of it, what it's tied to, and how it affected the lore. And he's also bringing other writers in with the same mentality. And when you look to it, Disney is the one that basically said in a statement, basically without saying the word canon, that the EU will not be used. We're tossing it to the side, basically trying to say they're decanonizing it, but you can't decanonize something that has been established already. You just don't use it anymore. It's still a part of the original lore, the original content that was created before the purchase. So meaning and sanctioned and approved by the original creator. So with that, Disney was like, toss it. And then we have Kennedy, and this is the paper trail, I guess you could say. Then we have Kennedy saying we have no source material. And then going back to what they said in that statement about the EU, they're like, oh, but we'll be inspired and use it for the new lore. to, keep original fans interested. I'm paraphrasing, so don't quote me on that. It's a paraphrase. And then Kennedy coming back and saying, oh, well, we don't have source materials when talking about creating their Disney trilogy. No source materials, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then Filoni coming out with his usual tactics of not honoring what came before. And then to make the excuse that George said, oh, well, continuity is for wimps, as a way of him dismissing maintaining continuity. And if you look at George's history, he more or less kept continuity than he didn't. It was all Filoni, basically. And then looking at the history of even like the Disney trilogy and the stories that were coming out, like through the novels and the comics, there is no continuity. The story group has even said, and there's another paper trail to this, story group was like, we can't veto any contradictions made in the movies. Meaning, we're just sitting here. We're just sitting pretty. We can't do anything. We're just collecting a check. Because they want these people to have creative freedom, but creative freedom does not limit or does not mean that continuity goes out the door. There's a responsibility you have when you're building upon the story that came before. And that, and that's basically continuity. You adhere to it, and then you expand from that. And then you write in your own ideas and possibilities as long as it keeps continuity. Like when we were talking about Exar Kun. He brought in Kevin J. Anderson brought in Exar Kun to the Academy trilogy. And then later was brought in to write for the Tales of the Jedi. And yet continuity was maintained, honoring what came before to build lore upon that, the history. That's a great example of cross-referencing past and present, keeping history in line, keeping continuity. Was there mishaps in the EO? Yes, there was. I'm not saying there wasn't. It was damn near perfect, but it wasn't. So there was, if something happened, it was corrected. It was course corrected. But it was done organically. Yet someone like Filoni, who people put on a pedestal, and you have the memes of the Filoni worship going on Twitter right now. It's kind of weird. I mean, I talk about George a lot and I defend him on occasions and stuff like that, but he's not on a pedestal for me. I know this guy gets crazy sometimes with what he has to say, and that his company did have to correct him. He has contradicted himself so many damn times. But with Filoni, he's put on a pedestal and is being said that he's saving Star Wars. But then I have to think to myself, what are you missing, you crazy ass people? He is saving Star Wars. Do you not know the lore? Do you not know the contradictions that TCW has created and now going forward into Disney lore? That he is still doing the same exact stuff, but yet he's saving Star Wars? I question your knowledge on Star Wars history. Are you saying that he is saving Star Wars because you don't care about continuity yourself? You just want to have a quick story and then not worry or not think about anything else that came before? If that's the fact, then of course you're going to think he's the fucking savior. You don't even care about Star Wars. Star Wars is a franchise that was a single history. That's what they were known for. That's what George set it up for, is a known history, a single continuity in the canon. So you can go back and reference. And again, Kevin J. Anderson, Exar Kun's story, and even like Revan that we talked about before shares that. Single timeline, one history. And Filoni saving Star Wars. I call bullshit. These people really don't care about Star Wars, really, because if they did, they would know this already. They would know the history of Star Wars is one single continuity. They would know that if someone comes in and breaks continuity, it's not honoring it. So why are they worshiping and putting Filoni on a pedestal? And he can't even write coherent stories. That's even evident in Mandalorian. But let me see what you guys have to say. Let me see. We are coming to an end here, too. Wow. I'm rereading the New Jedi Order series, my favorite series. Awesome. Enjoy. Shit level writers stealing the work of superior writers and creators. A writer becomes superior when they are able to keep continuity and expand on that without ripping off other people. Well, I have to go cooking, making myself some beef with peas and carrots. Bye, everyone. That sounds really good, Diddly Squat. You enjoy your meal. First, Filoni robs us the EU and then says that people asking for more EU characters are like children that can't stay satisfied with one toy for more than a second. Yep. Almost like, Filoni has ADHD, but then I'm insulting people who have that, because there are some intelligent people who have ADHD. Kennedy, we have no source material, but we are going to make a non-canon anyway. Right. I don't understand Filoni love. He's treated as a Star Wars encyclopedia, but he worked on Avatar and Last Airbender before this. Never any Star Wars work at all. No. And if you get into the history of like George hiring someone to continue the TCW story or the Clone Wars story, he still wanted Gandhi Tartakovsky. And Gandhi was all for it, but Gandhi's like, let me do a production, let me do a show, and let me oversee the production of the Clone Wars. And we have a deal. George didn't want to go with it. So George didn't want to go down the route Gandhi. But just imagine if George did. We probably would have gotten another story from Gandhi, whether it was Star Wars or not. He wanted to do something in Lucasfilm, not just Star Wars. But then overseeing the production of Clone Wars, that would have been amazing. Because if you're familiar with Clone Wars 03, they maintained continuity and had some offshoot stories within it too, in how small the stories, little vignette of stories that they were. Hey, Tommy Doyle. Excuse me. Woo. Thank you for coming in. Disney shit isn't canon. I agree. I agree. So here you go. So here is revelation or realization or evidence that how many times can I say that and how many ways? But here's proof, another one, that they are going to continue to cherry pick, bastardize, and people are going to be okay with it. People are going to be okay with it. And those who compare and contrast like I do are going to continue to be called black pills and name and talk shit about whatever. But you know what? Who fucking cares? I say if you have something to say about it, good or bad, especially like if you're pointing out like missteps and stuff like that, don't let people shut you down. They say like, people who talk bad are just toxic. Well, there is such thing as good toxic or toxic good. So thinking everything is good in Star Wars no matter what. Like it's Star Wars. It's all good. Just watch kind of deal. That's toxic in itself. But then again, is toxic really a bad word anymore? Probably not. Just like the R word, you're racist. It's just a keyword to go to try to insult, but it has no more meaning. So let's see what Soul Assassin has to say here. Fun fact: OG feels like Palpatine when she Shields talks about Star Wars not knowing the real lore. What? OG feels like Palpatine when Shield talks about Star Wars not. Oh, when I talk shit to shills not knowing about Star Wars? Is that what you mean? Let's see here. Tartakovsky Clone Wars. There's the link right there. I always like to share these when I see them pop up through Soul Assassin, so you guys can find them in the comment, click on them, and watch. And then let's see here. We're going to start coming to an ending here. I watched Ahsoka and I hated it. Ooh, I feel so bad for you. So sorry that you had to put yourself through that. Everybody hates Ahsoka. When you are right, you are right. And let's see here. When she watches Shills talk about Star Wars. Okay. I was like, what's going on here? Am I reading this right? I felt like I was like, kind of like, oh my God, am I going nuts? They're going to build up the Thrawn trilogy and character swap Luke with Ahsoka and Rey with Mara, Han Solo with Poe, etc. It's pathetic. I don't know. This is more or less a continuation of Rebels. There's no, but we'll see. We'll see. It's like, even if they bring in the Vong or the Giriks or Gursks or whatever they're called, it's not a remake. It's not a remake because it can't even fit in that timeline. Gotta pop out of here for a few. I got to work. Okay, thank you for coming in. We are beginning to wind down. So next week, part 2 of Exar Kun, we're going to get more into him being a Jedi, becoming a Sith, getting into how he became a Sith, Freedom Nod's influence and curse on him. Fun times. We'll talk about that. Well, maybe I don't want to talk about Force Ghosts versus Sith Ghosts until we get to when we talk about more about him, his encounter and just trying to destroy Luke's budding New Order in a Jedi Academy trilogy. So that would be part 3, not this Thursday, but the Thursday after. So stay tuned for that. Cringe Factor, that will be scheduled as the day comes for CAF chat because I want it to be something kind of current. So there's no announcements on what that's going to be. And then we'll get into a little bit more of lightsaber lore. Again, what is your favorite hilt? I will share that next week. Ham Skillet says, my biggest question about Ahsoka series so far is where is Luke? Diz refuses to give him something to do even in their own canon. Well, they did discuss about moving away from the Skywalkers. So there you go. I keep getting blocked by woke shills. So satisfying. Oh, you're in my club with that, huh? The 2003 Clone Wars is the GOAT. I agree. Rey will fight the Vong. There you go. And she will win it all. Like the poison and everything will not even phase her. She'll just force heal it and she'll be fine. She'll just stand there and all of it will leave her pores and there you go. Does that mean Ahsoka will marry Rey? Oh, well, I don't know and I don't care. That's kind of weird. In a way, maybe I want that to happen. Why? Because then some people who really hate her character and hate the Disney trilogy that calls us black pills is going to have a total meltdown and I will be there for that just to laugh, just for the entertainment. Brandon says, looking forward to the next week. Heck, I always look forward to talking to people who love the EU without any shills getting in the way. Yeah, no, just kick them out of the way. Ooh, how about Sabine? She looks like a less or a lass or a less. I don't know what you mean about that. Let's see here. Sabine's fight. Come on. Open up. Sabine's fight choreography was terrible. That's what people are telling me too. So I haven't even watched a clip on that. Yeah, I see you a lot on Melvin's. We have to avenge Star Wars. Yes, and thank you for popping in and supporting as well. Again, go check out Melvin's channel as well. Become a knight. Become a original George Star Wars member. So OG is not just like OG like original. It's OG, originally George, or original Georges. So OG Star Wars original OG. and originally George's. So that's what that means. So a little bit of history on that with what OG means. So become original George lore lover, part of the channel, a member. Original George of Star Wars. So become a member of the Knights, become a member of become a spacer over there on Tim's channel. Let's create this alliance here going on here. And so like my end is continuing to share the love of original Star Wars. And then Malvin's is about like sharing about how it hurts and how Star Wars needs maybe to pause all of that. So check it out. Let's see here. I want Leia and Han to show up with Ben. A certain person will explode. And I will be there for it. I know who you're talking about. I will be there for that, to watch that shit go down. That's going to be more entertaining and probably have more continuity within her getting pissed off than the show ever will have continuity wise. Even Boba Fett could fight better than that. It was terrible, too slow, and it looks fake. Anakin and Obi-Wan looked real. Let's see here. And we will celebrate George Lucas's Pride Month. So thank you guys again for tuning in again. I'm so sorry for the mishaps. First it was internet, and then it went into my browser not responding and kicking me out. Hashtag Sparrow. And thank you guys all for that, the support and staying and hanging in with me through the technicalities this morning. I appreciate you guys. We will get this resolved. And next week will be even better. I'm looking forward to it. Again, Exar Kun, his history with the Jedi, how he fell to the dark side as a Sith Lord, and all that in there, talking about lightsabers, and then Cringe Factor. So this should be a great another topic, part 2 of Exar Kun. It's always difficult to get everything in one discussion. So stay tuned for that. Again, you can go on my Twitter and watch Who is Exar Kun video by Mandalore or Tad Larkin. So check that out, especially if you need to fill in any gaps or you're not aware of him in a certain timelines and his influence either on Luke's Academy or, in the Old Republic and in between. So stay tuned for next week. And you can find me on the spacing as well tomorrow night after 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are going to talk about the culture war and where it has gone to, what's going on, and plus more. So it should be a great conversation. So I advise you come in, support, give your opinion, interact with what we're talking about, just like we do here in CAF Chat. And become a member. And stay tuned for the Hall of Knighthood, a collaboration between me and Tim and our channel members, since we have the same channel members that cross between both our channels. Stay tuned for that to be announced. I know you've been saying this now, but he's been really busy with work, and I have a big event, a powwow that's going on this weekend, so that's kind of had my attention as well. So thank you guys again, Exar Kun. Stay tuned for that next week, part 2. And with that being said, you guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you.
Another happy landing.